In Microsoft Excel, one of the most useful features is being able to link together multiple workbooks. In this demonstration, we're going to show you how to move workbooks that are linked to other workbooks. I already have two Excel workbooks that are linked to each other. The workbook on the screen contains no links. My second workbook, which I'm going to show you now, contains links that refers to the first workbook. The second workbook is called the Summary Links workbook. In here there's a few giveaways that this file contains links. First of all, when I click on a cell with a formula in, I can see this big long formula that includes references to other workbooks. Also at the top of the screen, there's an option to enable content, which again is a giveaway that this contains links. To prove that these linked workbooks are working at the moment, what I'm going to do is go to the first workbook and change some values. I'm going to change everything to 100. I'm then going to save and close that workbook. What I'm then going to do is open up the file that contains the links. When I choose to enable the content, we can see the links update. The only reason I've shown you this is to prove that we have links and they're working. Now we're ready to start the interesting part of the demonstration, which is moving these workbooks to somewhere else. I'm going to demonstrate moving these two linked files from my local computer into my OneDrive. The process would be very similar to move the files to SharePoint. I'm going to start by double-clicking on my OneDrive icon down on the bottom right corner of my screen. I'm then going to copy the files from my local machine and paste them into my OneDrive. What that does is take an exact duplicate of those files and move them into my OneDrive. Notice in this first situation, we've got both the files are not stored in any folders or subfolders, they just sit alongside each other. This is the simplest situation. Let's test this now to see if it's worked. I'm going to update the first file, this time changing all the values from 100 to 200, and then I'm going to save and close that file. I'm then going to open up the second file, the one that contains the links. When I choose to enable content to allow the links to update, we can see it updates. So when we're moving a pair of files or more files that are stored in a single location, so they're not in subfolders, it's very quick and easy to do. A slightly more complicated situation is where my linked files do not live in the same folder as each other. Let's take a look at how to deal with that, again moving the files from my local machine into my OneDrive. This time the two files that I have that are linked together do not live in the same folder, so I'm having to go and move them one at a time from my local machine into my OneDrive. At this stage, the two files are no longer linked to each other. They won't be able to find each other. To fix the links, I open up the file that contains the links, and before I choose to enable content, I go into the Data tab and I choose Edit Links. This allows me to see where my file is currently linked to, but most importantly, it allows me to change the source. This makes it very easy for me to choose Change Source, browse to my OneDrive or wherever the location is that I've now moved my files to. Select the original file that contains the data and choose OK and close. To prove that that updating link process has worked successfully, what I need to do now is save and close that file. Open up the file that contains the raw data, which is now stored within my OneDrive. I'm going to update all of these to have the value 123. So that's the raw data updated in that first file, just as we did it earlier in the demonstrations, when the file lived on my local machine. Now what I'm going to do is open up the summary link file that's now stored within my OneDrive and choose to enable the content to allow the update to take place. And we can see, sure enough, that new data flows from the first file within my OneDrive into the second file within my OneDrive. In summary, linked Excel files that are stored in a single folder in their original location can be easily moved together without any further updates. Linked Excel files that live in multiple locations, for example within a series of subfolders, can be moved individually, but you will then need to visit the link file and update where the links point to, as we've done in our final demonstration. If something does go wrong when you're updating your files, you can use version history within Excel to restore a previous version of the file. This video is part of a series called Your Know-How. Watch other videos in the series to learn more about Microsoft 365.